Last time on Dragon Ball Z.
Miss Miskatonic had a drug problem. Individual shenanigans. So they finally joined forces. Desperate drug ring, dead people, skeevy clubhouse, dead cow?
Hey Tony, I found some pests.
Now was the part where they pooled knowledge, began counter spells, and prepared to battle based upon the known weaknesses of their enemies. Which of course didn't happen. Instead, the investigators prepared for war. There was no talk of going to the police. Any sensible evidence had been retrieved illegally, and research into the drug itself suggested it was the still living blood of a god. By the time an officer of the law would be convinced that a group of cultists were sitting around an abandoned slaughterhouse, it would be too late. The entry plan was simple. Billy and Irene, now both with guns, would go in first via the cattle walk. Pendelstein, William, and Grace, armed with blades, bats, and nothing, waited at a side door to come in once they heard chaos begin. From their place above, Irene and Billy could see a circle gouged into the filth on the floor, odd symbols of occult power. In one corner was a large cistern filled with something black and viscous. Several of the cultists seemed to be sleeping, and there was no sign of dead cows anywhere. I had the perfect mental image of this fight. The cultists would run or be easily taken down, and just when the investigators' hopes had risen, the winged monstrosities would drop from the ceiling in a storm of blood and death. The cult leader would work through the fight to summon a beast of blood and bone, which would then eviscerate my players' last shred of hope and any health points they might have left over. This did not happen. Billy took aim and just fucking launched a glit gas canister into the middle of this oblivious gathering, upon which everything happened at once. The one bad guy with muscle was instantly incinerated. William flung open the side door and set his flash off to blind the unsuspecting cultists, and Pendelstein rushed out with his hidden blades in a flurry, only to get stabbed in the kidney with a 1% crit. The cult leader tried to chant the goop in the vat into hideous bone-filled life, and got his brains blown out for his troubles. Other cultists made attempts to join the fray, but they were either shot or cremated. All the fear and death I was planning was consumed by the flames. Then came the Night Gaunts. Night Gaunts are creatures, demons, things with no faces. Their sinewy arms have the strength to grab a grown man. Their monstrous wings have the power to lift the sane man to impossible heights before dropping him. If they cannot grab you, the snapping tail has a thing akin to a flensing knife on the end to slice you apart bit by bit. Night Gaunts are soundless nightmares I hoped would drift through my players' dreams long after the session ended. Except Jerry. He didn't start out as Jerry. He began as a sensible Night Gaunt targeting the weakest player, Grace. He missed. And missed again. Oh look, another miss. I could not roll a hit. His dice had decided not to touch Grace despite any of my DM wishes. This Night Gaunt was flailing around so much that the players dubbed him Jerry, convinced he and Grace somehow had prior romantic history. The other Night Gaunt, deemed Frank, was at least trying to be the winged personification of death I'd imagined. He landed some blows, got a grapple in, at least Frank was trying. Jerry was so useless he started killing cultists. I was actually grateful when their summoner died and the Night Gaunts dissolved. And at last, in a poof of greasy smoke, the battle was over. Number of dead cultists? All of them. Number of dead investigators? Less than one. Now came the fallout. How would the investigators deal with the police, the dead bodies, the occult paraphernalia that could still be used to fire? The answer was fire. The investigators used some of the Molotov cocktails they had made before the fight to burn the slaughterhouse and everything left in it to the ground. No evidence, no problem. Meanwhile, the carefully thought out epilogue that I was working on got much shorter. The important thing is that they had won. They used their wits to overcome all challenges in their path. Despite the player fear and DM panic, the unexpected RNG, fire, and effing Jerry, the players had a blast. It brought a smile to my face too. This was my first story as a DM, a pre-written adventure in a system I barely knew. I learned the lesson all first-time DMs learn. A party of first levels will always set fire to your expertly crafted plans. And you'll have the time of your life watching them.
Next, a power fantasy in the world of high fantasy. Thunderous fistfuls of dice assail the world of J.R.R. Tolkien. Coming right up on FlavorText.